Welcome to the Insum Insider.
Welcome to the Insum Insider. My name is Michelle Scamine. For those of you that have been following us for a while, you'll notice that I am alone today. Monty, our usual insider host, is actually presenting at OATUG today, so he is trusting me to fly solo. But for those that are die-hard Monty fans, and I know you are out there, I have a little something for you. Hopefully that will ease a little bit of the pain. So although Monty isn't here with us physically, he is here with us in spirit. As always, we'd love to know who's joining us today. If you're here, don't be shy. Say hi in the comments. Let us know where you're from. We're really trying to make this as engaging as possible, and we really find that helps. So say hello, let us know that you're here. We'd love to hear from you. So today we are talking about cloud native with Todd Sharp and Guillermo Ruiz, Adrian Ping, and Luc Demanche. But actually both Todd and Guillermo are also fiercely passionate developer advocates, and they had a special request for you, our insider audience. They would really love to know what Oracle can do to make Apex more appealing to developers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that with you, have a think about it, and we will invite you to share with us a little bit later in the show if you're feeling up to it. We will bring you on screen if you want to, so you can chat with Todd and Guillermo. But in the meantime, without further ado, I am going to bring our guests on. Welcome, Adrian, Luc, Todd, Guillermo. Guys, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thought maybe we could
Good morning.
Good morning and good afternoon to Guillermo, because you are here with us from Madrid, correct?
Yes. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for the invite.
Maybe Guillermo and Todd, if you can start things off by introducing yourselves quickly. Our audience is quite familiar with Adrian and Luc already. We'd love to hear from you about what it is that you do at Oracle.
Yeah, sure. No problem. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Adrian and Luc. I'm Todd Sharp. I am a developer advocate at Oracle. I've been here a little more than 2 years. But basically, I'm on the database org, but I do advocate a lot for a lot of cloud products, a lot of obviously cloud database, autonomous database, things like that. But I try to keep the big picture in mind, right? I try to work with developers, learn what they're doing, learn how they're doing it, learn the products and services and frameworks and all these things that they're using and all the tools, and then take that feedback and how they're using it and bring it to our engineers and use that feedback to make our products and services the best that we possibly can. So kind of a two-way conversation. A lot of times I'm talking to developers and then talking to engineers and product managers and project managers and other advocates like G, and learning what people are using, how they're using it, and how we can make our products better as a result of that. Right, G?
Hey, thanks. Well, I'm half of the Beards and Beers show, and currently I'm head of the developer relations team inside Oracle. So we managed to reach more in an open space with our developers and bring that voice inside the company to see the things that we need to fix, what are things that are working, we are struggling with, and try to provide a unique experience for our developers. So there's a lot of things going in the background, and I hope that you can start seeing in the incoming months the new way and the new vision that we're bringing to the developer space.
Great, thank you. Well, from having met with you a couple of times in preparing the show, I can definitely attest to the fact that you are very passionate about what you do. So we are grateful. We developers are grateful to have you looking out for us.
They don't get much more. They don't get much more passionate than G. That's for sure. Hey, there's my dog, by the way. That's Stanley, if anybody wants to say. I don't know if you can hear him, but he's barking like crazy in the background, so why not?
No worries. And mine is lying just behind over there. I'm surprised he didn't perk up when he heard your dog barking, but it's a family show, right?
Yeah. Hey, I also have, I have 2 dogs. I have a cat, I have a pig, and I have 12 chickens. So you might hear a rooster crowing. You might hear a pig. You never know what you're going to hear. They're not all in the house, obviously, but, you never know what you'll hear around here.
If that is true, I'm coming over because
It's true.
I
Totally
love
true.
animals, and that would be my dream living situation, I think.
Yep, absolutely true. What's that,
If I
Adrian?
remember correctly, I think it's your animals that were your inspiration for the last K-scope presentation you did. I think maybe 2 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah, 2019. Yeah.
Yep.
It's on IoT and.
Yeah, I did a kind of like a barn automation in the cloud type thing where I built a little. Well, there is a real system out there that I have, but I also kind of took it a step further and did like a proof of concept with Legos and gears and doors and little bowls, showing how to fill water remotely and monitor temperature, open doors remotely, and view all this, send all this data up to the cloud with streaming, and really this cloud native kind of solution for monitoring my barn with IoT sensors and Raspberry Pis and Arduinos and things like this. So kind of a great segue, I guess, into our topic today, cloud native, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. I should have that to monitor my kids' doors, bedroom, and my kids' activity. I should have something like that here.
Yeah, or your wine cellar there in the back there, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's my little man cave, where after the show I will probably go back there and relax.
Nice, very cool, very cool. Where are you located, Luke?
In Montreal. I'm located in Montreal. Yeah. Okay. Have you been?
And Adrian, you're over Seattle or Vancouver?
North of Seattle. I'm actually in Vancouver. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's Canada's Vancouver and not the other Vancouver. Yeah.
Right.
So I know you guys are traveling or were traveling a lot. I know that this year was kind of special, but have you been in Montreal?
I have never been to Montreal. No, not personally. I've been to Toronto. So I grew up in Northern Ohio. So I've been to Toronto. I've been to what's the other side of Detroit? It's just outside of Detroit, Ontario, basically. And I've been
Windsor?
Yes, Windsor. I've been to Niagara Falls. I've been to Vancouver, Victoria, but that's it. That's the only parts of Canada I've been to. So someday I'd love to come to Montreal, though.
Yeah, when it will be possible, I guess it would be great to have you here for a show or for a presentation.
Absolutely, yeah. Oh, I've also been to the Yukon Territory. That was probably the coolest place I've ever been to, man. That was really awesome. I see we got some people from Israel, Saudi Arabia, a couple people sending in messages. It's really awesome. That's my favorite part of one of my favorite parts about being a developer advocate is just the global interaction and global reach that this kind of role gives you. You get to learn about so many different places, local cultures and, how people, how society works in this type of part of the world. And just, you get to absorb all of this and really, it's impressive to see how that impacts, how people solve the problems that they need to solve. So, one of the coolest things, absolutely, for me. So, can't wait to come up to Montreal someday. Absolutely. It must be cold up there right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit colder, yeah, but you know, we are surviving, so I guess you'll be able to survive as well. Yeah, with the wine here, you know, it heats the cold temperature outside.
Sure.
Guys, you were saying that that you love to share, you love to talk about, you know, stuff. I'm sure you love to talk about cloud native stuff, right? So so what I would like to do, and Adrian, feel free to jump in as well. But what I would like to do first is, as you know, in some we are Apex expert. We do Apex development. We obviously use OCI as well. So what I would like to do first is to, you know, give a bit of background, how we are using OCI so far, and also I would like to jump into cloud native, right? You know, what you know, how we could leverage those new cloud services. So so first of all, you know, we are using OCI Gen 2 since when Gen 2 came up in, you know, 3 years and a half, 4 years. So so of course we are using OCI in order to deploy our stack, right? But for Apex, you know, it's a basic, simple stack, right? We need the database system, we need computes, we need load balancers, WAF as well. So object storage. So, you know, it's a basic deployment, right? Basic cloud services. Now, you know, since Autonomous DB came out, we are using more and more Autonomous database, which for me as a DBA, it's pretty cool, right? For a database point of view, Autonomous DB, it's pretty cool. But more and more, we are seeing a lot of other cloud services, Kubernetes, API gateway, functions as a service, serverless, and I guess that we can categorize those cloud services into a cloud native portfolio of services, right? So these can be considered as cloud native, right? So of course, right now at Insum or in general with Apex, we are trying to see, you know, what these cloud services can bring to us, right? To the application we are building. So you know, I do have a lot of questions, and I'm sure that we're gonna get a lot of questions in the chat as well from other people. I'm sure that Adrian has a lot of questions as well. So I don't want to steal one of these questions, but to start that discussion, you know, my first question would be, what is your definition of cloud native? You know, we can find tons of definition. You know, we simply have to Google cloud native, and there's tons of papers. But what is
huge buzzword?
Yeah, what is your definition of cloud native? And also, other question would be, in general, you know, not Apex specific, but in general, why we should be having that cloud, you know, why we should think cloud native, because it's different minding, right? We have to think about cloud native. So
Yep.
What is your definition, and why we should think cloud native now?
Sure.
You go.
Yeah, sure. So cloud native, you made an excellent point, right? You can easily find tons of definitions of cloud native online. Some of them even contradict each other a little bit. Some of them, you know, it's hard to say. You know, is there a universal definition? I think the proper answer would be to refer to the Cloud Native Computing Foundation and kind of go by whatever their definition is of cloud native. I've got that pulled up here. You don't want me to read it. It's boring. Essentially, what we're talking about is building applications, applications that are built for the cloud, as opposed to applications that are migrated to the cloud or after some time, we decide, hey, we should move to the cloud. These are applications that are built cloud, thinking about the cloud and cloud first, right? A lot of times you're talking about microservices, very often containers, Docker containers, other kind of containers are a part of the story. As you said, Kubernetes is used to orchestrate these containers and manage them and deploy them, expose them to the internet. You're also looking at services, a different type of managed services like messaging, notifications, messages. Basically, you're talking about like Kafka or something, some kind of streaming solution where you're pushing and consuming messages. So there's many different elements. Serverless, again, is a big part of it. Events, cloud events. So for example, if you had an Apex application that you're uploading documents to object storage, let's say just a very simple, classic, easy example. You have an Apex app, your users can upload pictures, and you want to do something with those pictures. Well, in order to do something with those pictures, they all have to be a JPEG and they all have to be less than 1,000 pixels. Let's use that as a hypothetical, right? So you let them upload their picture, it goes into object storage. Object storage can trigger what's called a cloud event. You can listen for that cloud event. An object has been added, and this is just an event that is broadcast. If you have nothing listening for it, then it just goes off into the ether and nothing happens. But you can set up a serverless function or streaming or something else to listen for that event. Now you've triggered a serverless function. You've got an image uploaded to this object storage bucket. We want to resize it, make sure it's less than 1,000 pixels, and we want to make sure it's in JPEG format for whatever, hypothetically. These are the types of things you could do. And this is what Cloud Native brings to your application. It gives you the ability to kind of take advantage of these managed services that all usually work really well together. And there's always usually very good APIs. You can even, for example, use like Cloud REST, and I think that's what they're called, but there's a PL SQL package. I'm sorry, it's been a long month. But there are PL SQL packages that you could use that actually allow you to call the REST APIs. So you could do that right from within your Apex application and take advantage of that. So there's a lot of solutions. There's a lot of things that work really well together at Oracle. Integrations are a big, huge thing. Monitoring. We've just come out with some monitoring and observability solutions. And I'm going to let G talk about that because I've been rambling on here, and I've not let him talk. So G, talk about manager O&M.
Well, you mentioned right. I always say that when they come about cloud native, it's all about living in the cloud. But now we have all these distributed services, microservices running from one side to another. How I can have the full vision of what is happening with those applications that I have and natively running in the cloud environments. That's where observability and management comes into the game. I think that many people is not aware of what Oracle is doing. They just see Oracle as the brand and, okay, these are the guys doing. But if you see all the services we are releasing, they are based on the Cloud Native Foundation, and we're using open source tools. When you go into this observability platform, and I want to trace and see where this microservices is talking, what's the dependencies between different microservices, that tracing is compatible with open metrics and open tracing. So you can run your stuff out of Oracle. We can source, we can make from custom sources, inject that into our system. So it's providing a whole overall picture of how to run those things, which I think was missing. I remember when you start building your apps and suddenly, okay, 20 microservices is like when you run with Jenkins and your stuff, it's okay, 20 plugins I need to maintain and keep. Suddenly it's 100 plugins. How you start doing, what happens when the short one fails down, and how I can track, how I can identify where the problem is. It turns into a more complex methodology to try to find the root cause and how to spin up. It gives you the agility and the time to market to really spin up and focus on small things and create from there. But I think that all this on Cloud Native brings more complex stuff, but now we're working in those tools that can help to make your life easier.
I'm I'm happy that you brought up that easy use case of documents, having to store documents or images or whatnot. We use in the good old days, we used to store those documents into a table, right? And from there we would have triggers or whatnot to do any type of processes. And I'm it it it's cool that you mentioned that, because these days we are having that type of question, right? And we are also mentioning that now that we are on OCI, we should be using those different cloud services. It's not only having the database on OCI, but you should leverage everything else around that database. People, I guess, sometimes are seeing OCI as, my database is running on the cloud, but there's OCI. It's way more than just a database running on OCI. So that opens up the door of using those other services, and the use case of where should I store my documents now. So I guess that right now we should have that cloud native thinking of, let's store them into object storage for multiple reasons, right? Because there's advantages at the database point of view, not having them in the database, but in the cloud, in object store, but also because you can leverage those other cloud services. So I guess that
And
it's a key element here.
Security.
Yeah.
And I have to say, Todd, it's interesting that you brought up that use case, because just quite recently, I actually implemented one for the customer where we had to we put images in the object store. We had those events triggering a Python function that does the thumbnail generation for us as well. And it worked out pretty well for them. And I mean, there are many solutions out there for generating thumbnails, and we used to do them in the database as well. And that's kind of going away. So yeah, it's real. It's not just something that we talk about. We actually do it. Yeah.
Yeah, and the advantage there is, right, that you get a more responsive application, right? Because you can, but you don't have to wait for that process to complete. You can spawn that process off either asynchronously, or if it's in a serverless function, it's done behind the scenes, and when it's ready, and you can notify the user, you can do whatever you have to do, but it makes your application more responsive. It makes it
and even expand, right? Because if you're storing image, you can run machine learning services that you can track for specific things, compare with something that you have there, and identify, I don't know, you can different rules.
And again, one of the advantages of using those type of cloud services is the scalability, right? Before, when we were doing everything into the database, if ever we would need more capacity, we would have to add more CPU on the database server, right? That was the way to provide more capabilities, right? But now with OCI, I guess that the scalability is not an issue anymore, right? Because it's going to scale itself, right? So
that's a good one, because you know that when OCI, or this second generation, started, we were launching regions with 3 availability domains to provide that high scalability in a single region. And customers came to us and say, that's pretty cool. The architecture is a key differentiator against other cloud providers, but you don't have an extended footprint all over the world. So we changed based in those comments and say, okay, let's start launching. It takes us 23 days to launch a region, a single availability domain. Everything is automated. So we went and said, hey, let's expand this globally. Let's go to multiple countries. Let's cover the world with our availability domains and mono regions. But as the demand grows, we know it's 23 days. We just can add another 80 to that region and start scaling. So if you see now, we have presence, I think, almost all over the world. The last one was in Santiago, Chile. And in the roadmap, if you see what's coming next year, it's just amazing how fast OCI landscape is growing worldwide.
Yeah.
But again, and this is one of the challenge we have, like you were saying, Toad, we have to think cloud native, right? When we develop, we have to think more cloud native now than than before. But the challenge, I guess, we are having, and Adrian can comment, it's to have the developer having that cloud native thinking, right? So how can we have them having that cloud native thinking when they are developing?
That's a good one, huh?
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on that, G?
Well,
I guess
we
it's,
usually the thing is that the traditional people that you used to get in the on-prem field, they are developers and they are thinking on their infrastructure. I have like, this is my scope of where I can interact. Now getting into a broader one, we also try to get into the hybrid model first before you get into the cloud native. So you just start experimenting between on-prem and the cloud. You test, you do things. It's a journey that you need to really learn as you grow there. But we find other people that directly went into the cloud natives landscape. They directly were born in the cloud, and they are more used to this compute services, distribution, make it overall globally on the stacks. But that's a good one. I think that it's just a learning path that you really need
I think it
to
is.
break those fears.
And I think it's a matter of understanding the landscape and really kind of researching what solutions are out there, what managed services are, how these services scale, like you were talking about scaling, and really comparing different cloud vendors and choosing the right vendor for your needs. I mean, if you have a lot of database needs, obviously Oracle is probably going to be a really good choice for you. If you have other needs, there may be, like G said, there may be a hybrid solution. There may be, you just really have to dig in and know what's out there, know what services are out there, know how they work, and not be afraid of learning. Because I still meet developers who are a little intimidated by things like Docker and Kubernetes, and they can be tricky. There is a little bit of a learning curve to learn these things, but I think a lot of companies, if they want to really embrace cloud native, I think they need to embrace the fact that there may be some developers who may need some training and some education. And if you want to make that commitment and that investment, then you need to also invest in your developers, because you can't just throw money at something and say, we want to go cloud native and assume that your developers know what that means. You have to put in the time and give them the proper tools to help your transition to that. And
I think for me, I'm part developer and part DBA as well, but I would think the first way I would go about it is to first maybe think microservices versus monolith, and an acknowledgement that as much as we love our platform, and we all have our personal favorites, at some point we may not be able to accomplish everything that we would ideally like to do, within a single platform, and then you start thinking, okay, I can't do this in PL SQL. Can I do this in JavaScript? Can I do this in Python? And if I'm going to do this, do I have to then start learning to manage a whole new server? And we really don't want to do that kind of thing, right? So, and that's where cloud native services, the Docker containers, the functions as a service, those are going to help you with that manageability, and you focus on solving your specific problem, and then integrate that with your Apex application, for example. And that's precisely actually what we did with the thumbnail generation, the whole thought process, right? Can I do this outside of Apex? Can I do this outside of the database? Can I do it in such a way that I don't have to pay a lot of money, hire new administrators to manage services, and just do this really quickly, right? And it's there.
But it's our responsibility to ensure that we don't change the way you operate. I really get surprised when there's companies that comes and say, now you have this new service and this is the tool you need to manage. And it's like, hey guys, I have already a bunch of tools that helps me manage my services and my stuff. What I need to add an additional, I need to have this learning process. So what we're pushing strongly is like, let's adapt. What is people using out there? So if you already have let's say if we come from monitoring, you have Elasticsearch and things like that, it's open source. Why don't we create our service that it's compatible with these tools out there? So we don't modify anything. You leverage new services, but you still keep operating the same way you used to do. And that's one of the key challenges that we are facing, and we are pushing forward to get more things around that.
So Marco has a question here about storing files, documents. We briefly discuss about that, but personally, I think that the way we should be seeing that is now not storing those files into the database at all. So that's my point of view. Again, it's a way to ease it's a way to easily leverage other cloud services, like we were just saying. So I don't know, guys, if you would like to comment on this question as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a it's a topic that I think some DBAs are passionate about. To put it kindly, some DBAs feel very strongly about this one way or another. My opinion is, and preface this with, I'm not a DBA. I never have been a DBA, and I don't claim to be a DBA. But my opinion is, you never store a file in the database. There's so much. I don't think. I'm trying to put this politically correct, but I guess I'll just say it.
In a polite way.
File systems are for files, and databases are for data. And yes, you could argue that files are data, but databases. Okay, I'll focus on why file systems are better, because file systems handle files better. You can do things like replication and cross-region replication with your files. If you go to object storage, making them redundant, you can put lifecycle policies on them, meaning after 30 days, if nobody has read this file, delete it. You can do all kinds of other things for compliance and legal. Object storage has so many other advantages. Security, very fine-grained security. You can archive files if they haven't been touched in X amount of days. So file systems and things like object storage are so much more suited for all the different nuances. You can store the key or the file name of the path in your table and use that to construct or use that in conjunction with the SDK to construct a pre-signed request, which gives you a one-time URL that you can access a secure file. It's just so much more powerful and flexible to go the object storage route than storing the file in the database that really isn't built for, especially if you have large needs. If you're uploading large documents, you're going to run out of storage space eventually. You're going to run out of, processing power to retrieve these files. I could go on and on, but I think you get my point. G, do you have anything? Plus, like you said, the integrations with cloud events, with streaming, with, on and on you could go about it.
Right.
Security.
I fully agree on that, yeah.
There's also something I would like to clarify here. I don't want people, the audience, thinking that cloud native, it's only when you are on cloud, right? It's not true. Even though your system is on-premise, if you have that hybrid deployment between your on-premise and OCI, you can leverage cloud native services. So it's not only when you are totally on OCI, you can use those services with your system on-premise as well. So I don't want to scare people here thinking that they have to be totally on OCI in order to use those cloud native services.
Absolutely.
Right?
You can leverage. One of the main problems when you run on-prem is running out of capacity, or even those refreshment of hardware and things where your applications run that every 4 years I have to replace my switches, my servers, my stuff. Now we bring that option of let's scale, and I need to do things. I'm running out. I have a new project that was not in our pipe and suddenly appears from nowhere, and we need to execute. Just use the cloud to expand it there. So there's no really need of I fully understand people, and that's why Oracle came with the Cloud at Customer dedicated region, saying, hey, why don't we bring all our cloud offering behind your firewall? Let's build a full data center where you have all my services, Exadata Cloud Service, even VMware in the cloud. You can run all those things locally. So it's about options. I think that people want, it's how I can fix your problem, but don't tell me how to do it. Just give me the options where I decide, because it's my business, on how to do those things.
Mm-hmm. And don't forget, one of the big tenets and kind of concepts of cloud native is having integrating with CI/CD. I think you touched on that a little bit, G, and that's what made me think about it. So your build pipelines, having automated builds that can deploy your applications and your services or redeploy them, test them and redeploy them very quickly and easily, using things like infrastructure as code, Terraform, some of the other options around that to quickly deploy or build out your infrastructure. So it's the whole kind of automated reality of, we don't do things by hand anymore. We don't, but at the same time, it frees you up to focus on the very important parts of your application, your business logic, your user experience, those kind of things. It's just about learning and embracing the automation, the pipelines that are provided to you, and making your life easier, and the observability that you get into that process because of that.
There's an interesting thing on CI/CD. Why should I be paying my developers to build the CI/CD tools instead of, you're getting a lot of money. You pay, usually developers is not something that you grow like mushrooms out there in the field. It's very specific. There's not many people out there. And why I have to pay a lot of money to these guys to build tools? I want them to build services. We should be providing those tools so you can use by default and forget about how's the installation, the management, and the things. Just go and execute. And that's something that the cloud native is bringing. I know that Oracle might lack right now on some of the features and capability that provides that overall experience, but believe me, we're really working hard to bring and fill those gaps to provide a real developer experience, both on-prem but also in the cloud.
Yeah,
and we also, whatever we don't, I'm sorry, Luke, or just to finish that thought, whatever we don't provide, we integrate really well with other open source, things like GitHub Actions and GitLab, pipelines. We integrate really well with those, and we also have like developer cloud service of our own that is an option for people. So tons of options and tons of integrations. We work nicely with everybody.
So my point was about what you don't have now that you know it's going to come up in regards of helping developers work in terms of cloud native. So compared to other cloud vendors, right? What Oracle doesn't have right now that it's going to come up soon?
I think they're right.
Very careful. We don't want to get fired if we.
But
Okay.
I think that we've not been so precise on the kind of experience we've been providing developers. And I think there's a lot of things we need to do on our side. First of all is when you go to our developer.oracle.com site, traditionally Oracle, we were putting their marketing. We don't want to see marketing pitch there. I want to build a collaboration space, and that's part of my job now. That's how can I bring a common space where you can come with your problems, but it's not even Q&A, which is that the old 90s way of communities and stuff like that. Just bring your code. Tell me what's your problem. Have someone in the same space to code, to solve the problem, get connections to Git where we can store the solutions and all those things. And we are really trying to bring more I always tell, and I'm going to get fired because of this, I always say that we need to bring back the technical Sun Microsystem style. The back in the 20s, early 90s, that was like the cool stuff runs in these guys. We are working on bringing that style back into Oracle. I think that there's a lot of cool things that we can do. And we have been showing, I've been speaking for the last 10 months inside Oracle with many teams all over the world. Usually my day starts on 8 a.m., 9 a.m. with Japan and Australia, and I end up like 1 a.m. in the morning speaking with Todd and people in Latin America. So we are tracking all overall inside Oracle to find the right people, and there's a bunch of things that has been like disconnected. Now we're bringing everybody together to provide that single voice. I'll put an example. Oracle has all the ingredients to provide that unique experience. We have the cloud platform, OCI. We have the language programming, Java. We have the operating system, Oracle Linux. And we have the database, MySQL, and the Oracle XE database. Why cannot we provide that storytelling for developers? You have everything to leverage your skills and do things using our services. And I can only think in another company that does the same thing and you need to pay license for the operating system, which is the difference. So that's something we try to bring, and that's one of my topest priority right now. We asked early in this question about how we can make a sexy and appealing Apex, because we know it's a very cool platform. We are seeing more. You just go to LinkedIn and just track how many job descriptions are around Apex. It's growing really fast. People are seeing that it's an easy platform where you can develop your applications and your things. What's the missing piece to really make it more emotional and more appealing to start doing more and more things with our low-code platform? That's what we need to understand, and that's what we are looking for from people like you that you work in a daily basis. It's like I was going to create a campaign that's like, come and complain. Just let me know what your problems are. Let me take those problems, put it in my bag, and let's try to fix it. Hey, there's a question from Flavio there.
Yeah. Flavio asks, would it make sense to have ORDS as a REST backend for a single page app in Angular HTML and still use some of Apex resources through PL SQL API like email templates and automations? I guess, Flavio, the answer to that would be it depends. Because when you use ORDS, very awesome tool, very powerful, by the way. I love ORDS. But the concern when you use ORDS is security. If you expose your table or tables as REST endpoints and you do not secure them, then they're open to the world. If you use OAuth security, which is possible, you can provide OAuth security to your ORDS endpoints. That means you have to retrieve a token before you can submit your requests. You do that by using a client ID and a client secret. You retrieve an OAuth token, then you send that token along with your requests for security purposes. That authenticates fine. The problem with a single page app is it's all client side, right? There's no server side involved in there. So that would mean you would have to store your client ID and client secret in the clear in your source code in the app, which is not good. So that's tricky. I guess that's if you don't need secure endpoints, I don't know when you wouldn't, unless it's like a very, very public type application. Usually you're going to want to have some kind of proxy in between you and the database in that case. A backend service that uses HTTP requests to call the ORDS endpoints and stores the credentials in vault secrets or some other encrypted manner and keeps everything secure. So it depends. I don't know enough about Apex resources like email templates and stuff. Can Adrian, Luke, can you guys speak to that part of the question?
Yeah, I think conceptually frameworks like Angular, React, they are kind of different from what we're accustomed to in Apex. You could possibly do what you said. I believe Vincent Monroe had talked about how he found he could work with React in Apex, for example. So there are definitely approaches. I wouldn't say that it's the best platform for doing that, but who knows, right? I don't know, Michelle, do we have the link to Vincent's presentation on React? Because that might give him some insights.
You know what? I'll ask. I don't have it at hand, but Mark, if you have a second, if you can look that up and post that in the comments, that would be great.
Yeah, I believe it was done in 2019 with Kscope, but I'm not too sure if we did it with the webinars that we usually have after Kscope as well. So I would definitely suggest looking at that. I personally haven't really done any Angular in Apex. I've done Angular on the side, and yeah, it's just it didn't seem to me like a natural fit, but it is. No, you never know. Everything's possible, right?
Well, and if you went the route that I was suggesting, where you put a backend proxy in place for security purposes, at that point, to me, now you've added another layer, which could lead to lessened performance, let's say. So in that case, I would probably skip using REST or ORDS and just talk natively to the database from that backend, whether it's Node or Java or Python or whatever my backend was, because taking that hit from the client to the backend and then the backend to the database over REST is much slower than client to backend and then backend to database over TCP with JDBC, for example. JDBC is always going to be faster between the database and a Java backend, for example, than using an HTTP request. So because there's serialization and all that stuff that's involved. So my point being, sometimes ORDS, I love ORDS. It's very great. I use it a lot for IoT type things. It's a really awesome fit in that world, in my mind, as well as many other places. But straight from a single page application to the database, unless you're talking about no need for security, it's trickier with ORDS.
And actually, I just remembered, and I hate to be doing this, but it's basically it's about the book that we just wrote. I actually did a.
Just dropping plugs, Adrian.
Do not be shy. I'm gonna one up you.
Nice.
Nice.
I had that queued up. How great was that?
Yeah, well, sorry for the plug, but in the book itself, I think I had this scenario where we were doing the backend administration with an Apex application. It managed the data, but we also had a front end. The front end, actually, I had two options, and one of them actually is to use the React framework, and everything's talking over ORDS, being the way of exposing the data itself. I would say you could potentially then trigger other things that are in the Apex platform, but just bear in mind that some things require a valid session, so that you have to kind of deal with as well.
Right.
And
throwing out book plugs.
Oh, there you go.
Throwing a book plug there too.
Fantastic. So, guys, I snuck back on here. I'm just watching the time. First of all, I wanted to apologize for covering your faces with the questions sometimes, particularly Guillermo, because you're bottom left, so you're getting covered with our questions. So apologies for that. But I definitely wanted to make sure we got to this, your request of our audience. Guys, we know you're there. Do not be shy. And even if you want to come on and join us and talk to Guillermo and Todd, you are welcome to join us here on screen and share how we can make Apex more appealing to developers. I'm actually going to attest to the fact that people are being shy. I'm getting pinged and messaged in the background. I don't know why the comments aren't coming in through the chat, but we did have a comment or a request for maybe some sample apps that didn't necessarily have to pitch ship with Apex, but that people could use that were already, let me just read it properly. The comment, I'd very much like to see sample apps that integrate a few of these services. They wouldn't have to ship with Apex, but there could be a link. So samples that you can install into an OCI instance and everything is hooked up and running. So maybe things that remove some of the barriers to entry could be helpful there.
So in response to that, I don't know if this is exactly what they're looking for, but if you go to Resource Manager in the Oracle Cloud, which is our
Terraform as a service.
It's our yes, Terraform as a service. Basically, it allows you to upload your Terraform packages and deploy them and manage the stacks on the Oracle Cloud. But if you go there, there are sample apps that you can look at and deploy. So there are, for example, there's something called Moo Shop, which is basically a full microservice integrated with streaming and serverless functions and storage and all these things. So you can build out these stacks and you can deploy them there. And there's a handful of many other stacks that you can deploy that will build the instances for you. We'll spin up a database. We'll create a network, cloud storage, streaming, and all these things. There's plenty of examples up there that you can check out.
We have Live Labs, a platform where you can run your own labs. We have a catalog. You mentioned Mushop. We have also the Gigi's Pizza. I always make the joke of because Mushop is like a pet shop. So I always say you want cats, you want pizza, you want safety, because we also have a safety city application that you can control lights and a lot of things of what's happening there. If you go to Live Labs, you can book with the always free tier. We have an account that it's for free, not 12 months, it's forever. You get 2 autonomous database instances, 2 virtual machines. We are adding more services, so people will start seeing more things coming in the pipe. But you can run this Mushop, you can run the Gigi's Pizza. There are a lot of things that you can test for free. Just try it. Let us know. And what we're doing now is pulling that, it's all in GitHub. So even if you find you want to add a new service or something and expand that lab, just make it. We will be more than happy to showcase that as an official thing inside Oracle with your development. Huh?
And I think we do have plans to showcase some of this as well. And it's really about setting up the stacks for people to kind of deploy, because I mean, when we talk about cloud native, it's going to be, it's not just your Apex application that we have to showcase. We have to be able to let people stand up the resources they need, and we need to make sure the two kind of go hand in hand and works with any tenancy. But it's certainly something that we're looking at. You've just piled on the pressure on me to get it done. But the thumbnail generation, of course, it's probably a popular use case to show that off.
Yeah, we have one there. I think I'm not sure if we made it public or not. We did like 1.5 years ago a service that it helps you to operate inside the data center. So you could go and scan a server code, and it will pop up in your mobile device, the virtual machines that were running, seeing the CPUs in real-time network traffic and a lot of things, and you can take decisions of what you want to do with those VMs, shoot down, migrate, pull them out. It was meant to do operations inside the data center, and it comes with a bunch of cloud native service functions, API gateway. We export that even to a third party that I think I can mention without getting fired, right? Splunk. We're using their augmented reality module just to showcase that integration flows seamlessly in that side. So I think that the sky is the limit. When you start working on cloud native and applications, mostly every day you have problems, and that problem can turn into a good opportunity to fix it by building an application.
There are still a few little, there are a few little questions coming in. Maybe Luc, if you can take a look at them and see if there are things that you'd like us to put on screen. So Ashok had a question about the about adding certificates, mentioning that there are already 60 certificates, but requirement to add a few more.
So I think he's talking about the wallet, and I don't know the answer to that. Adrian, do you know the answer to that?
It's the autonomous database that he's referring to, and we don't have control as a customer on what's in the wallet. It does has, as he said, the root certificates that are common. If you're trying something else, well, we actually have one recent problem as well. You could try putting an SR. I'm not too sure if they would agree, but who knows?
So
Rich just added and saying that he agrees with the question.
Yeah, well, again, it's what they put in the wallet, and then typically I think that's the common root certificates that we have even in operating systems. So. And because the autonomous database, at least the shared instance, is shared, right? So I think they have to be really careful about what they say yes to. I'm not too sure if there's a workaround apart from getting the certificates properly signed by a known root CA or the intermediates. If self-sign and all that, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, in that case, I don't think autonomous DB is the right right platform, I guess that DB system will be more appropriate because we do have all the control. So in that specific case, I would say that it might not be the best platform to go with Autonomous DB.
Or use ORDS in that
wallet.
case.
Sorry?
I mean, you could use ORDS in that case where you can store your ORDS credentials in your Apex app, make HTTP calls to your ORDS endpoints in Autonomous Database. You don't have to worry about your wallet or anything in that case, right?
I think you might be the other way, where you have your own ORDS elsewhere, where it doesn't, you have full control on the wallet, and then you can expose that particular service with your own service. But I think Rich also had a follow-up question about the LDAP service, and I think typically LDAP service, most people probably do a self-sign that runs for 10 years. So. But self-sign again, it's not super secure, so I don't think it would ever fly with Oracle to put it in.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I would suggest that anyone that has really difficult questions about Apex, direct them to Dan McGann at Oracle. No, Dan. No, I joke, but Dan is great. He's one of the Apex evangelists, and could, I'm sure, answer these questions the Apex specific questions much better than myself or G. Not that we're not happy to help out or answer whatever we can, but Dan is great. So is Joel. I mean, you guys know all of them, all those guys.
So, sorry about that. I think Mark is trying to give us a hint that the clock is ticking. He's started talking about what's coming up next. Yeah, you guys, I think wanted to thank you so much for coming on today and talking about all of this. Thank you, Adrian and Luc, for suggesting it as a topic. There was some great comments and questions. This isn't the sort of topic that we normally cover, slightly maybe outside of our audience's comfort zone, but I think it's really important that we talk about this stuff more often. So guys, we will try and keep getting some more feedback from our insiders. We know they're out there, and we'll send that to you about how we can make Apex more appealing. Wanted to just
pretty shy today.
Thanks very much.
Well, it's appealing to us. We just need to get more of us on board. We can just talk about a couple of things that are coming up next. We have Anton and Hayden on Friday presenting their Apex Instant Tips at 12:05 right here on our YouTube channel. And as Mark put up, next week here on The Insider, we have Peter and Matt from FOEX. We're going to be talking to us about plugins and Apex extendability in general. So you can join us for that. Guys, again, thank you so much for. Oh, Mark, look at you. You're ready with the like, comment, subscribe, do all the things like Anton says, smash the bell so that you don't forget. And anything else, guys, that you'd like to share with the audience before we dance on out of here, as Monty likes to say?
Appreciate you all having us on here. As always, great to get some time to talk about OCI in the cloud, and wish everybody great holidays. Whatever you're celebrating, if you celebrate, then have a great one, and hope you get some time with your family and enjoy.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Same to you. Bye, guys.
Thank you guys being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take
Cheers.
care. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Ciao.
You've been listening to the Insum Insider.